What if an entire life hinged on a single breath, on the quiet moment suspended between the person you were and the person you could still become? For Claire, this is that moment, a choice that will echo through the rest of her days, leading her towards her greatest triumphs or her most devastating regrets. In the great unwritten storybook of our lives, these are known as defining moments. They are the crossroads, large and small. They shape the story we tell ourselves about who we are. And so the question becomes, what does Claire do when absolutely everything is on the line? Claire sits in a room washed in pale, late afternoon light. The world outside is a distant hum, a life she belongs to, but to which she feels no real connection. Dusts dance in the sunbeams, each tiny, oblivious world, wholly unaware of the weight this room contains. It is this very atmosphere, a stillness so profound the time itself seems to hold its breath, mirroring the pause in our own story. Even the way Claire holds herself speaks of a quiet conflict. Her hands rest in her lap. One is loosely curled, the other in a fist, a small but potent symbol of the war being waged within her. Her gaze is distant, fixed on some point beyond the window, beyond the life that she has known. This is not a sudden crisis. It is the final tremor after 1,000 small surrenders. Her life has been a collection of choices made for comfort, for safety, for the silent approval of others. Each choice was a single, flimsy thread, but woven together over years, they have formed a rope, tethering her to the life that feels safe, but is no longer her own. By all reasonable accounts, it's a good life. It's stable, it's predictable, but it is a borrowed life, a script written by another, and she has forgotten the look for her own handwriting. These are the turning points we so often miss. Pivotal moment does not always arrive like a thunderclap. Sometimes it's a quiet dawning, the slow realization that the safe harbor you steered has become the very thing that keeps your ship from the sea. Claire has arrived at a fork in the road, not of dirt and stone, but of the soul. And she knows with a certainty that chills her to the bone that to stay on this path is to let the truest version of herself perish. So we find ourselves at the crossroad. Two futures lie before Claire, each a universe of its own. They flicker in her mind's eye, not as clear pictures, but as feelings, as echoes of who she might become. The first path is one of magnificent, terrifying risk. It's the path of boldness. It means leaving this room, this house, this entire life that has been so carefully constructed around her. It is the pursuit of a dream buried so long ago, she can barely recall its shape. Passion to create, to build something that is hers and hers alone. This future tastes of salt and iron, salt from the tears of failure and the sweat of work, iron from the metallic tang of fear, and that will be her constant companion. This future is a sea of uncertainty. There are no guarantees, only the promise of a worthy struggle. She can see herself in a tiny apartment in an unknown city, surrounded by sketches and prototypes, fueled by cheap coffee and a desperate, burning hope. She can feel the doubt in the eyes of those she leaves behind, the sting of their concern that sounds so much like judgment. But beneath the fear, there is a vibrant, electric current of life. The colors in this future are saturated, vivid. The joy is not a gentle, muted warmth. It's a brilliant, blinding light that has been earned. Triumph is not the sound of applause, but the quiet internal hum of rightness. It is the feeling of finally being in the right place at the right time as the right person. A life of her own making, beautiful and broken and true. A life of meaning, forged in the fire of her own choosing. Then her mind drifts to the other path, the path of staying. On the surface, it's the sensible choice. There is no immediate pain here, only the soft, familiar comfort of the known. The first few weeks, perhaps even months, would feel like a relief, crisis averted. But slowly, a fog would begin to roll in. It would be like a beautiful plant moved into a room with too little sun. It doesn't die overnight. It just slowly loses its color until it's a pale imitation of what it once was. Laughter at dinner parties would sound distant. Praise at her secure, respectable job would feel hollow. And in the quiet moments, late at night, or in her own reflection, a question would begin to haunt her. A ghost in the machine of her life. What if? This is the cruel nature of the chances not taking. The ghost of what if doesn't just visit, it moves into the house of your mind. Upon the blank canvas of that question, Claire would paint her most beautiful and painful fantasies. She would see the life she could have lived, not as it would have been with all its struggles, but as perfect, idealized dream. And that dream would poison the reality she chose. The safety she clung to would reveal itself not as a fortress, but as a prison she had built for herself. The regret would not be a sharp pain, but a chronic ache, a low-grade fever of the soul that drains the meaning from everything. It is the quiet tragedy of a life half lived. So the two paths raged within her, a silent, epic war. The fear of failure on one side, the terror of regret on the other. For a long moment, she is paralyzed, caught in the crushing gravity between these two worlds. The air feels heavy with all the lives she could live, and the one she must let die. Pivotal moments are not defined by what happens to us, but by the choices we make within them. Then, something shifts. It's not a grand epiphany. There's no bolt of lightning. It is a change so small, it's almost invisible. Her breathing, once shallow and light, deepens. A long, slow exhale releases a tension she didn't even realize she was holding. Her fisted hand unclenches. Her gaze, once lost in the endless horizon of what ifs, returns to the room. It lands on her own hands, then on the door. It's a gaze no longer lost, but now focused. In that quiet moment, the decision is made. It is the simple, profound realization that the pain of regret is a much heavier burden than the pain of failure. Failure is like falling from a cliff. The impact is violent, but if you survive, you heal and carry a scar. Regret is being forced to carry a heavy stone for the rest of your life, constant, wearing weight. She understood that she could endure a scar, but not the stone. The transformation has already begun, not in her circumstances, but in her very core. She has chosen. The feeling of being torn apart has passed, leaving behind a new sense of self, quiet clarity. She is no longer a ship at anchor waiting for the tides. She is the hand on the realm, about to steer her life into the open seas. Claire stands. The moment is fluid, calm. There is no rush, no frantic energy, just a deliberate, quiet purpose. She walks to the closet, takes her coat, puts it on, a simple action, one that she's performed thousands of times. This time, it feels different. Each movement is filled with the weight of lightness and her decision. It is the first step on new ground. We do not need to see the rest of her journey. We do not need to know if she finds wild success or faces crushing defeat, because the triumph was not in the outcome. The triumph was in the moment she chooses to bet on herself, the moment she decides that a life of authentic struggle was better than a life of comfortable surrender. Our lives are not always shaped by the grand cinematic events that we imagine. More often, they are forged in these quiet, unforeseen moments of decision. They are like the roots of a massive tree. They are not what the world sees, but they are what provides the anchor, the nourishment, and the entire direction of growth. Claire's story is powerful because it's universal. It's a story of every person who has ever stood at a crossroad, terrified of the road ahead and the road behind. It's a reminder that we are the authors of our own story, and we always hold the power to revise the chapters as we no longer wish to live them. In the end, our lives are not defined by the moments we wait for, but by the quiet decisions we make when no one is watching. They are the sum of the chances we take, the fears we face, and the moments we refuse to let pass us by. In these quiet revolutions of the soul, This is when we are truly born. So, this is an introduction into the life of Claire, the unwritten life, and we will pick up and see what Claire does at this crossroad. It sounds like she's about to take some real action. So, join me for chapter 1 and let's see where Claire is going. Thank you guys. I love you. Bye bye.